So the CW has officially ordered a pilot for a Gotham Knights TV show. Now in today's video I want to talk about what that could potentially mean and what I would expect from the show if the pilot gets picked up. Let's get into it. Now, this is something that was rumoured a few months back, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, maybe December, I'm not sure. But the CW did mention making a Gotham Knights show, or at least a pilot for that show. Now, it's important to note that while that pilot has now been given the go-ahead, it doesn't necessarily mean that we will be getting that show. Of course, the pilot needs to be picked up first for the show to go ahead. The other thing that I do want to make very clear before we get too far into this video is, yes, there is a video game coming out later this year with the same name, Gotham Knights, with a very similar premise, but as far as I'm aware at least, they are in no way connected. So what exactly do we know so far about the upcoming CW pilot? Well, the brief description that we've been given says this. In Gotham Knights, in the wake of Bruce Wayne's murder, his rebellious adopted son forges an unlikely alliance with the children of Batman's enemies when they are all framed for killing the Caped Crusader. And as the city's most wanted criminals, this renegade band of misfits must fight to clear their names. But in a Gotham with no Dark Knight to protect it, the city descends into the most dangerous it's ever been. However, hope comes from the most unexpected places, as this team of mismatched fugitives will become its next generation of saviors. Now, just from this description alone, it doesn't sound like this is going to be anything like the Gotham Knights video game. If you've seen the trailer for the Gotham Knights game, you'll know that it stars, I think, Robin, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Batgirl. This is off the top of my head. Whereas the description for the CW show makes it sound very much like, okay, it says Bruce Wayne's rebellious adopted son, which could be any of, I guess, Dick, Grayson, Jason Todd, or Tim Drake. I would arguably say Jason Todd is most likely with the way it says rebellious. However, it doesn't sound like he will be working with the other members of the Bat family, because it specifically says that this rebellious adopted son will be forming an unlikely alliance with Batman's enemies. In fact, it says the children of Batman's enemies. So I'm not sure if that means they will be bringing in new characters like the Joker's son or Poison Ivy's son or Bane's daughter. Like, who knows? They could be bringing in a bunch of new characters, or they could just be bringing in familiar characters that we are used to seeing and just make use of the Bat villain characters rather than making use of the main Batman characters, such as the Dark Knight himself, or Robin, Batgirl, so on and so forth. It sounds to me like they're trying to go down the Suicide Squad route. We know that Suicide Squad has been a rather successful property for DC over recent years, not just with the original Suicide Squad movie, which did okay, and then the kind of soft reboot, which we got last year, which was pretty good. We now got the spin-off with John Cena's Peacemaker, and there's the Suicide Squad game that's been delayed till next year. We know that DC are all about Suicide Squad at the moment, and to me it sounds like they've gone, okay, this sort of renegade batch of misfits coming together to work for the common good is a successful formula. Let's chuck it directly into the Batman universe and use the sort of Batman villains and a couple of Batman side characters to pump it into a realm that everybody is comfortable and familiar with. Personally, I'm okay with this. I'm of the kind of mindset similar to how I am with other fandoms, where I feel like I'm not going to be annoyed if something is bad. It doesn't ruin the rest of the fandom, right? It doesn't ruin the rest of the content. We still have great Batman comics. We still have great Batman films out there. We have great shows. We have Titans. I know some people don't like it, but I do. We have other things that we can enjoy. One bad apple doesn't ruin the bunch. Or so the saying goes, I think. Something like that. And this is exactly how I feel about the Lord of the Rings show on Prime, The Rings of Power. Everybody is saying that it's going to suck. Again, it may well do. It may be an absolute masterpiece. Either way, it doesn't ruin the Lord of the Rings movies that came before it. It doesn't ruin the Lord of the Rings books. So, I don't know why everybody gets their panties all twisted up in a bunch, but, you know, each to their own. As for the creators of this show, we know that 3 writers are moving over from Batwoman to write this. Now, I don't want to go too deep into Batwoman as a show. This video is not about that show, but I will say the writing of that is very poor. The standard of the show in general is not high, and the character development and characters in general, they pretty much suck. So I'm not too optimistic about where this show will be going if they take the same route that they did with Batwoman. However, that may potentially be due to weaker characters in general. They have tried saving Batwoman by bringing in more popular and well-known Batman characters such as Poison Ivy, but again, they absolutely bottled it and messed it up, and it didn't help in the slightest. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not expecting too much. I think the best they could do with this is to make it a dark comedy. We know that Batman has some of the most iconic and greatest villains in not just comic book history, but in fiction, in my opinion, right? And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Putting those colourful, wacky, crazy characters together to have to do something that they maybe might not necessarily want to do to protect their city could lead to some very funny and comedic moments. And I think if they take that route with it, they could potentially be onto a winning formula. If they just try and make it another dark, boring take on, oh, there's some bad guys in Gotham, oh, Batman's gone, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, let's fight crime. Like, it could get stale very, very quickly. Basically, if they make it Batwoman. Now, I don't want to ramble on about how much I hate Batwoman in this video, because it's about the Gotham Knights. But there is one more thing I want to talk about, and that's the fact that Batman is not involved. And that's obviously the case with the majority of small screen shows related to DC, right? We understand that DC and Warner Brothers, they want to keep Batman for the big screen. Obviously, we're less than a month away now from the release of Matt Reeves' The Batman, which also will have its own small screen spin-offs. I think there's going to be one based on like a prequel show based on Gotham PD in general, and there was another one based on the Penguin, I believe. We've not had a lot of information about those in recent months or recent years even, but as far as I'm aware, they're still a go. Now, I'm absolutely fine with all these shows excluding Batman from their stories, but what I don't want to see, and what I'm a little bit worried about, is everything just doing the same thing. Oh, Batman's disappeared. He's not here at the moment, so we're going to focus on these characters for 3 seasons. Or, oh, you know, Batman's just busy somewhere else. He's doing more important jobs. It's kind of the same problem you have when you introduce characters like the Justice League, for example. If we want to have a Justice League story, and in the same universe we tell a Batman story, and Batman comes across this big obstacle, this terrifying, dangerous villain that he must defeat, well, why didn't Superman just come and help him? He could end it like that. And I feel like that's the same problem with these other shows. Whenever you take Batman away from it, it's just like, okay, these characters are great, but if Batman was just here and getting involved, this story wouldn't be happening. So they all have to come up with these different ideas of how to remove Batman from the story. So going back to the Gotham Knights, I feel like having Batman actually be dead, Bruce Wayne is actually being killed, that's the best way of doing a show based in Gotham around a similar sort of time that the characters are alive and not have Batman in it. Just have him dead. It's a kind of a prequel. No, not a prequel, a sequel to a Batman story, right? And I feel like that is the only way you can do it without questions being raised. Is this show being connected to the Arrowverse? I hear all of you asking already. No, as far as I'm aware, it's not. The CW, obviously there was rumours of a sale, and I think that potentially is still going on. However, they are continuing to pump out these new DC shows. We've got an absolute insane lineup of DC shows on the CW now. Most of them are in one universe, but they're kind of adding other ones that just seem to be their own thing, and I'm fine with that. I have no problem. Not everything needs to be connected. I'm okay with having multiple different takes on the same characters. Not a problem. The more the better. Keep them coming. I can judge them all separately and individually. Less likely to make plot holes and continuity errors. Anyway, I'm just rambling on now. I kind of want to just get on video and talk about what I thought about this Gotham Knights pilot. Overall, more Batman content is more Batman content, even if it's without Batman. I'm not going to judge anything too hard until I've seen something. I'll see a trailer and then make a decision on whether I think it's a good shout or not. But when we just get one paragraph of a brief description, who am I to really judge? I've given my thoughts on it for now. I'll be sure to keep you updated with any news we get along the months during the production of the pilot, the release of the pilot, and if CW pick it up as a show. Okay, that's it from me today, my friends. I'm going to leave you to it. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. You're all amazing. The growth has been mind-blowing. Please continue to do so. Let's try and get this channel to 10,000 subscribers. Can we do it before the release of the Batman? That may be a little bit optimistic, but hey, you don't ask, you don't get. Don't forget to subscribe and return to the Batcave for more Bat content. See you guys.